60 years ago, when I was a little girl of about 9 years old, Her Majesty, Queen Elizabeth II, became the Queen of Canada, Queen of the UK, but of course the Queen of Canada. And that was the day that she acceded to the throne. I remember that day like yesterday. I remember hearing the news that her father had died. Now remember, kings do not really die. They call it the demise of the king, because the throne springs from one to the other, from one ear to the other. And that's a wonderful thing. But I remember that day as clearly as yesterday. And to us, it's a year of remembrance and a year of celebration. Because in honor of the Jubilee of that occasion, the Diamond Jubilee, they struck a medal that was to be used as a commemorative token to honor Canadians for distinguished services to their fellow man, to their community, and to each other. So that is what that Diamond Jubilee medal represents.
Mesdames et messieurs, ladies and gentlemen, veuillez vous lever pour l'arrivée du sénateur Coons. Please rise for the arrival of Senator Coons. Mesdames et messieurs, veuillez demeurer debout et vous joindre notre chanteur pour notre hymne national. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing and join Kaylee Duff in the singing of our national anthem.
Honorable Senator Debonnet, Pierre Debonnet, medal recipients, beloved wives and husbands of the recipients, family and friends of the recipients and supporters. I would like to thank Major Gauthier from the Directorate of Honors and Recognition at the Department of National Defense. I thank him for acting as our Master of Ceremonies this evening. And I would wish to share with you the fact that his presence here is a great privilege for me and for us. And he's a very special human being, and he gives of himself, and he serves again and again. I'm pleased and very humbled this evening to welcome you to Canada's Upper House, styled the Senate of Canada. I welcome you to our Red Chamber. This is the House of the Parliaments, where the three constituent parts of Parliament, the Queen, the Senate, and the House of Commons, may assemble in Parliament assembled. Her Majesty in Parliament assembled. This is the House of Parliament, which is attended by the Sovereign, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, or by her representative, His Excellency, the Governor-General of Canada. I welcome you to this, the Royal House. I welcome you to this place to which I was summoned in 1984 by the then Governor-General on the advice of the Right Honourable Pierre Elliott Trudeau, the then Prime Minister of Canada. This is the House of Parliament in which I serve, and my seat is just over there. Well, there's no one in it I can see, which is a good thing. The Diamond Jubilee Medal to be awarded this evening is about our sovereign majesty and service, and it is our plan to treat you who have served with majesty this evening. This evening is about honoring service. Service is about our humanity. It is about how we order our lives as a collectivity. Service is about giving and sharing. It is about caring. It is about the power of love working in our hearts, in our persons, in our families, in our communities, and in our country. It is about doing our best and about honoring each other and our fellow man. About the need for service, Mahatma Gandhi told us that, and I quote, "He who devotes himself to service with a clear conscience will day by day grasp the necessity for it in greater measure and will continually grow in faith." If we cultivate the habit of doing this service deliberately, our desire for service will steadily grow stronger and will make not only for our own happiness, but for that of the world at large. Interestingly, dear friends, Mr. Trudeau was a man who believed that peace, international peace, would be achieved by international dialogue. And I'm reminded of that because as we're here this evening in a very solemn moment, for me it is very reminiscent of the very first day when I walked into this place and I was sworn in 1984. And I see my friend, Senator Dubonnet, nodding. Dear friends, today is a good day. Today is a very good day. We are gathered here to do pleasant and happy business, Her Majesty's business, authorized by her royal lex prerogativa, that is, the law of the prerogative, by which she is the fountain of honor. We could go on a bit on that, the fountain of justice, and her coronation sworn oath to administer justice in mercy. But that's for another day. We are gathered here to present our Queen's Diamond Jubilee medals to some deserving Canadians in recognition of their service and their contribution to the common good and their contributions to make Canada a better place. I am privileged to present these medals in her name, in Her Majesty's name, and on her behalf. I present them to you as Canadians who have distinguished yourselves by the width and the depth of your services to your fellow Canadians. I am blessed to know you, and I thank you for your good service. I would like to conclude by a reading which is a very beautiful one from the scriptures, from Ephesians chapter 3. and I leave this with you. I ask God from the wealth of his glory to give you power through his Spirit to be strong in your inner selves. And I pray that Christ will make his home in your hearts through faith. I pray that you may have your roots and foundation in love, so that you, together with all God's people, may have the power to understand how broad and long, how high and deep is Christ's love. Yes, may you come to know his love, and so be completely filled with the very nature of God. I thank all the recipients for their sharing and their giving of themselves, which is what service is. And as I said before, it is all about the power of love working in our hearts.
Thank you very much, Senator. We will now hear one of our medal recipients, accomplished pianist and piano teacher Tu Mac, accompanied by her two sons, 15-year-old Kirsten Leong on the violin and 17-year-old Stanley Leong on the cello.
To the people who received it, I think many of them would think it's probably the greatest honor that has ever been bestowed on them. Remember, 60,000 of these medals were cut and distributed across the country. That seems like a large number, but it's very few in respect of the entire population. Now, each member of parliament and every senator was able to contribute 30 names to the Governor General. I submitted my 30 names, and it was a very difficult choice, of course, because I think I could easily have submitted the names of 500. But I think that all of those individuals were very happy and a little bit astonished. But we have to remember that as a symbol of majesty, to honor another human being is to uphold them. And there's a place in every human heart which wants to belong. People want to belong. And people want to be recognized for the good that they do. And that is how I approach my choosing of my candidates. I chose people that I thought had made outstanding contributions to this country and to their neighbors.
To receive the Queen Elizabeth II Diamond Jubilee Medal, David Burrell, geophysicist, Nanton, Alberta. A retired teacher and geophysicist, learned on the Rocky Mountains, he is a volunteer director of the Bomber Command Museum of Canada in Nanton, Alberta. He is dedicated to the remembrance of the men who served in Bomber Command during the Second World War, particularly the 11,000 Canadian aircrew members who were killed in bombing operations. David Burrell. Norman Brown, School Principal, Toronto, Ontario. An accomplished educator, he is the supervising principal at the Toronto Christian Denominational School of much diversity. His able leadership is reflected in higher graduation rates for the students. A devoted Christian, he is also actively involved in his church and in community outreach. Norman Brown. Dr. Joseph Gabriel Debaney, engineer and university professor, Ottawa, Ontario. A retired petroleum engineer and professor, he pioneered the use of digital electronic computers in oil and gas production while working at Texaco in 1956. Born in Egypt, he is an active member of Ottawa's Lebanese Christian Melkite Church and Community. Dr. Joseph Gabriel Debaney. Betty Ann Despard, dog obedience instructor, Ottawa, Ontario. A great-grandmother, an accomplished dog trainer and handler, she is the president of the nonprofit Bytown Dog Obedience Club. She has faithfully served our community, teaching dog obedience whereby dog owners can form ordered relationships with their beloved canines. Betty Ann Despard. Dr. Donald Dutton, University Professor, Vancouver, British Columbia. With a PhD in psychology, he is a foremost scholar on domestic violence at the University of British Columbia. He is a well-known internationally, having published 10 books and over 100 papers. A leader and pioneer in his field, his research has advanced the understanding of the plight that is family violence. He has also shown light on this darkness, upholding the need for its treatment founded in humanity rather than ideology. Dr. Donald Dutton. Dr. Wylam Fott, medical doctor and surgeon, Ottawa, Ontario. An outstanding medical man, he is a gynecological oncologist and surgeon and head of the Ottawa Hospital Regional Cancer Program. His measured approach and his gentle manner bring his patients comfort and confidence. His life's work is treating people with cancer, mostly women, and saving lives. Dr. Wylam Fott. Daniel Fox, retired school teacher, Nanton, Alberta. A retired principal of Stampede Boys Ranch School in Alberta, he taught boys with special needs and other problems for 29 years. A volunteer director of the Bomber Command Museum of Canada, he is devoted to the memory of bombing operation veterans and those who fell during the Second World War in these high-fatality operations. Mr. Daniel Fox. Martha Fusca, Public Affairs Broadcaster, Toronto, Ontario. She is an enterprising and innovative person with admirable initiative. She is the first woman to finance, develop, and launch her own television network, Stornoway Communications. A credit to the public affairs communications industry, she is brave in her approach and bold in her subject matter. Martha Fusca. Barclay Wayne Johnson, lawyer in private practice, Victoria, British Columbia. As a dedicated lawyer, he has provided service in various legal areas, including criminal and family law. He strongly upholds the notion that all Canadians deserve access to legal services and has worked to provide this for many, particularly for fairness for fathers in divorce cases. He is thoughtful and considerate of his clients. Barclay Wayne Johnson. Carl William Karsgaard, retired airline pilot, Nanton, Alberta. A gifted and retired airline pilot, he recovered a Second World War bomber, Halifax LW-682, which had been shot down by Nazi fighter planes crashing into a Belgian marsh. The remains of 3 Canadian airmen were therein entombed for 53 years until Carl surfaced the bomber, recovered their remains, and returned them to their families. These bomber boys were given military funerals with full honors in the presence of their loved ones. Further, by his efforts, the aluminium harvested from this Halifax bomber was used to construct the aluminium ceiling over the new Bomber Command Memorial unveiled by Her Majesty the Queen in London on June the 28th as a lasting memorial to all those who served and fell in Bomber Command. Carl William Karsgaard. Mr. Patrick Knight, high school teacher, Toronto, Ontario. A dedicated educator, he is a caring and skillful teacher in Toronto who has worked in schools of diversity. He possesses a keen interest in inner-city schools and has special insights into students and their unique challenges. He inspires his students, he invites their confidence and respect. He works with parents and the community to promote the well-being of these young people. Patrick Knight. Anna May LaPearl, public servant, Ottawa, Ontario. A kind human being, a devoted and diligent public servant, she has served Queen, Canada, and Canadians at Rideau Hall, Ottawa. As a loyal Canadian, she is committed to the service of Her Majesty the Queen. She is also a dedicated volunteer who lives by doing with the Air Cadets, St. John Ambulance, and the Shepherds of Good Hope. Anna May LaPearl. Helen Lucas, artist, King City, Ontario. Born of Greek parents, Helen is one of Canada's most successful artists, having had over 50 exhibitions in Canada, the United Kingdom, and the United States. Her recent work of 17 paintings, her Dove series, based on the hope, peace, and love of the Holy Spirit, now hang in Rwandan and Kenyan churches, gifts from her to Africa as her Christian offering. Helen Lucas. Tu Mac, classical musician, Ottawa, Ontario. An accomplished pianist, a multi-instrumentalist, and a music teacher, Tu spreads the gift and the love of music to countless students and audiences of all ages. She is the wife of a music-loving physicist and the mother of 2 teenage sons, both virtuoso musicians, as we have seen, and an accomplished businesswoman. Tu Mac. Father Alex Michaelopoulos, clergyman, Ottawa, Ontario. A considerate and sensitive man of the cloth, he is the proto-presbyter of Ottawa's Dormition of the Virgin Mary Greek Orthodox Church. This devoted clergyman is a vibrant force in the Ottawa Hellenic community, where he daily shares his love of Christ and commitment to humanity. Father Alex Michaelopoulos. Colonel Alan Mitchell, military lawyer, Ottawa, Ontario, and now retired distinguished lawyer and military man who served for 36 years in Her Majesty's Canadian Forces as a senior legal advisor, including as Deputy Judge Advocate General. For 16 of those years, he held the rank of colonel. He is also an active volunteer in his church. Colonel Alan Mitchell. Dr. Abdallah Hage Obeid, University Professor, Ottawa, Ontario. A lover of the beauty and art of script, he is a Lebanese academic. He and his wife were forced by circumstances to start life afresh in Canada with only 2 suitcases, their only possessions. He is an enthusiast of Arabic poetry, literature, and history. He founded and chairs University of Ottawa's Department of Arabic Studies. An inspiring teacher, admired by his students, he has worked tirelessly to create many scholarships and opportunities for his students. Dr. Abdallah Hage Obeid. Freda Emily Rodney, small business owner, Ottawa, Ontario. An owner of a small and thriving hairdressing and wig enterprise, this tiny woman with a big heart has rendered devoted and sensitive service to women whose lives have been touched by cancer, to women who face the distress of hair loss, one of the many difficult consequences of chemotherapy treatment. Freda Emily Rodney. Dr. Peter Hugh O'Neill Rowe, University Professor, Waterloo, Ontario. A former Associate Dean of Engineering at Waterloo University, he is well published and internationally acclaimed for his work. He currently directs an international exchange program for engineering students while serving as a municipal councillor. Dr. Peter Hugh O'Neill Rowe. David Rutherford, broadcast journalist, Calgary, Alberta. A well-known and well-listened-to Western Canadian broadcast journalist, he is the host of Rutherford, a daily public affairs talk show. It is syndicated and faithfully followed by thousands of Canadians. As an innovator, he bravely opened the waves on many complex issues. He gave voice to the many. He also gave voice to the voiceless, for whom his program gave expression. David Rutherford. John Singlehurst, lawyer in private practice, Ottawa, Ontario. He is an accomplished patent lawyer with a devoted Anglican. He has served as warden of Ottawa's Anglican Resurrection Church and is admired widely. For 20 years, he has provided faithful volunteer service to his church and his community. John Singlehurst. Chong Ming Tam, Physical and Mediative Arts, Ottawa, Ontario. A thoughtful and physically fit Canadian, he is devoted to human wellness and the healthy development of the human body and mind. He is a student, a practitioner, and also a teacher of the calming arts that are Tai Chi, Chai Kung, and related meditations. He teaches the studied forms and movements of Tai Chi to persons of all ages, old and young, as a hobby and a way of life. Chong Ming Tam. Marilyn Ann Thompson, social worker, Cambridge, Ontario. Formerly the Director of Social Work at Cambridge Memorial Hospital, she is well known and admired by her peers and those she serves. She upheld social justice for many. She developed the first course on social work for the elderly while teaching at Renison University College. She is greatly devoted to the elderly and their needs. Marilyn Ann Thompson. Yvette Tucker, pharmacist, Ottawa, Ontario. A skilled and attentive pharmacist, she is patient and diligent with her clients. She is known to Ottawa's senior citizens because of her willing and thorough explanations of their prescriptions and medications. Many seek her out for her informed manner and concerned approach in the increasingly complex and constantly growing pharmaceutical and medical fields. Yvette Tucker. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes tonight's investiture. Please join me in congratulating all of tonight's recipients. Mesdames et messieurs, veuillez vous lever et vous joindre à notre chanteuse pour l'interprétation de l'hymne royal. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise and join Kaylee Duff once again in the singing of the royal anthem.
God save our gracious Queen, long live our noble Queen. God save the Queen. Send her victorious, happy and glorious, long to reign over us. God save the Queen.
Please remain standing for the departure of Senator Cools and the recipients.
Simply to make a small presentation, I would like to invite Mr. Carl Cathcart of the Barbara Clement Museum to come forward to make a special presentation to Senator Cool.
Ladies and gentlemen, you may not know me personally. I know many of you, Senator Ann and quite a few others, but they say that life is a journey, and I know that for a fact because I flew big jets for 37 years. And the trips that I remember most, I don't remember. What I don't remember is the destination. But what I remember is who I traveled with. And some of you that have been given this wonderful award tonight, thanks to our beautiful Senator Ann, I don't know you. I've only known you a few moments. But isn't it always, it's never the destination, it's who you travel with.
Here, here. Here, here.
So, just as a little token for Senator Ann to show how much we appreciate her, and you got to understand, I've been to Barbados many times, but I didn't know, I thought it was a great island, but because Senator Ann is born there, I now think it's a beautiful island.
Here,
And she has held up the Canadian values and the Canadian ideals to the utmost. And I just want to say, Senator Ann, you have the best humanity radar I've ever seen. She can sense the best of Canada, the best of our people, the best of the values. You saw it tonight, didn't you?
You're here.
I've upheld the values of the Canadian bomber crews, the men that fought for our freedom, for over 20 years. We recovered a bomber from 750 feet underwater in a lake in Norway in 1995. And that airplane, beautiful as a symbol of our freedom and our fighting men, is now in Trenton, Ontario, totally rebuilt. But as they took the skin off the airplane to totally rebuild it, they couldn't use it, so I saved it. And there is a gentleman in Western Canada, he's the world's expert at the pinup girls and the cartoon characters that were painted on the bombers. And he said, Carl, give me some of the Halifax bomber skin from your recovered bomber, and I will recreate a character from Canadian aviation history. And so this I brought tonight as a token of appreciation to Senator Ann. And I'm not just talking about Carl's appreciation, you know, I'm talking about your appreciation. It's just a little memento, it's a little something. So I'd like to, Senator Ann, somebody could, if you could help me, and we'll just lift it off and you can see it. This is official Halifax combat skin, and it's for Senator Ann.
You're here.
There's just one more thing I'd like to add is that she may have started out in Barbados, but she is now our Canada kid.
I just want us all to have a good time, to relax a little bit, drink some wine, have some good food, and savor the moment and savor the environment. Because I think this view here and this foyer is absolutely spectacular. And today is a good day. God forgive him. Today is a good day. So I thank you all for being yourselves and for giving as you did. And where are the RCMP boys? Where are they?
Oh, there we are.
Where's Nick? Nick, Brad, where's Brad? Come on over here. I want you to know these fellows are all volunteers. And come up here. And for those of you who may not know, you call these jackets Red Surge. And these fellows are here on their own time as volunteers, wearing their Red Surge, just so that this environment and these people, you could have an experience with Canadian RCMP. Red Coat.
Here, here. Oh, bravo. Here, here.
I'd also like to thank all my staff and all the people who have worked so hard. It's a large volunteer effort to make this event happen. So again, I thank you for coming, and savor your medals, because there's not going to be another Diamond Jubilee one for a long time.
That's right. Oh, that's lovely.
You know that I am not objective on this particular point. I am a great supporter of the Canadian men of Bomber Command who face enormous dangers and put themselves in harm's way night after night in the bombing operations, in the terrible war against the Nazi menace. So I must tell you that I have great admiration for the individuals who work and volunteer at Nanton Museum. It's an interesting phenomenon to find in a very small town in Alberta. I call it small town Alberta, really. Such a stupendous effort to this cause. I've rarely seen, and I've seen a lot of volunteer efforts, but I've rarely seen anything quite as outstanding as that. I've never met a group of volunteers before who were working to restore an old bomber plane like that. And I respect that greatly because it touches a real place in my heart, because it's a huge thing for a young man of 20, 21, or 22 to go out to fight on behalf of his country in an extremely dangerous theater of war, in extremely dangerous operations. And I think we cannot honor them too much. But the important thing is that we remember them and that we uphold them.
What did you think of it when you were there?
I loved it. I loved the roundness of the columns, and I like especially like the location. Somebody chose that location very carefully. It's an extremely prominent location, you know, and I love that. And I love the statue of the bombermen. You know, I guess you would call them. We didn't call them bombardiers. That was the American thing. But what would we call the bomber crew? It was spectacular. And I especially, you're reminding me of this, and I especially remember the metallic ceiling and the fine symbolism that ceiling had, and what it represents, since it was metal recovered and rescued from a downed bomber. So I found that very, very touching. And as with most monuments like that, one always has a sense that one is on holy ground. It's a very magnificent thing, and wonderfully conceptualized and wonderfully constructed, and a true testament to thousands and thousands of men who served so loyally in extremely dangerous circumstances. It was an extremely dangerous theater of war, and the fatality numbers are staggering.